Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream. Today, Ron Nicoletti, along with Ashley Mayu, a special 11 race card this afternoon. Normally 12, but we got 11 fantastic races. I have a fast main track, and the turf course is listed as good. And I'm hearing from Ashley that she absolutely knew it rained a little bit here this morning.
Well, we always talk. Did it rain in Weston? Did it rain this way? I was on a walk with my dad this morning. My family's visiting in town, and about a mile into the walk, the heavens opened up, and it was downpour. So it rained for a pretty decent, I'd say, about a half hour.
Welcome to Florida. That's it. It's always raining a little bit, but it'll be, if it stays like this, it is so sultry out. The turf course, we've seen this happen numerous times. It'll be listed as firm as the afternoon moves on. We got $200,000 jackpot guarantee with the 11 race card. That comes in race number 6 this afternoon. And we had a pick 5 carryover from yesterday, pick 5 pool, not a pick 5 pool, what do you call it, super high 5, but they hit it in the last race. But we got a pick 5 starting here, and the super high 5 pool, as I was mentioned, $10,000. So pretty good. They almost hit it in the last race, but didn't quite get it. So with that said, let's get right into the Saturday card. You got an early pick 5 ticket you want to show.
Yeah, I'm going to switch things up today in terms of my ticket structure and the cost. I went with $48 here in the early pick 5. I go 3 deep in here. I like the number 8, Captain Ziggy, out of the Georgina Baxter barn, but also use the horse directly to his inside, the 7, Lord Darnley, and the 11, He Ain't No Saint. Race 2, just 2 deep in here between the number 2, Nikita, and then as well as the number 8, Burhanu for Safi Joseph Jr. Then race 3, I don't often do this, but I've been doing it lately. I've been spreading. This is a turf sprint, 5 furlongs. This is for fillies, 2-year-olds, this maiden event. I go 4 deep in here. I think there are a couple horses towards the outside I had some interest in, the 11, Veiled Prophet, being probably the horse I'm most interested in. But I thought the 7, Sneaky Cheeky at 12 to morning line, was sneaky in this spot. And then in the last 2 legs there, I just go 2 deep in race 4 and race 5. I think race 4 is kind of a tough 12-5 maiden claiming event. A lot of these horses have had their fair share of chances, but just down to 2 in there.
Yeah, and the 5th race this afternoon, where it ends, is our first of 2 stakes races on the afternoon. That's the North Beach, that overnight handicap, a nice race, and then you went 2 deep. Getting back to this first race, I too went with the number 8, Captain Ziggy. I think you went with Captain Ziggy on top, who was a well-meant second on the turf. That was going a mile, 2 starts back, returns to the grass. He stalked last time out, this horse, finished third against Similar. That was going that 1-turn mile on the dirt. Georgina pretty sharp with horses going from dirt to turf, and especially when they run well in the main track last time out.
Yeah, it was a decent race. I mean, he was well beaten. The top 2 and they were clear, but the runner-up, Ethos, came back to win. Next time out, you mentioned it was scheduled for the turf, moved to the main track, but I thought the prior 2 turf efforts here, since that little bit of a freshening, they were both strong. This one, I think, if you go to that race 2 back, should be forwardly placed, and that's probably where you want to be.
Yeah, see, you put the 11 in second like I did. I originally had, I believe it was the 6 horse or something in second that scratched out in the first race. He Ain't No Saint, cutting back slightly to the about 7.5 furlongs, rallied to finish second. It was a good race going a mile, but the horse is 0 for 15, so I was a little shaky about putting this one on the ticket. But this is a spot where, these maidens, as you mentioned, are always competitive, and one day it could be this horse's chance.
Yeah, one day he's got to graduate at some point. You mentioned shaky in terms of, obviously, he's 0 for 15, but he is 7 for 15 in the money. And I thought last time out, he got back on the turf. It was a really improved performance, and you can see Edgar Zayas piloted him 2 back on the dirt. Poor performance, but last time out, it was a pretty strong run.
And you used Lon Darnley in third. I went with the 3, Kratz again, who's dropping for Mike Yates, Jesus Rios. So just a class drop for me. What about the 7?
He's just been consistently there. I think Roger Lauren and Chantal Sutherland, they've done quite well here at Gulfstream Park, 18%. You kind of see he was 4th, He Ain't No Saint, 3rd behind Captain Ziggy. So he's not as good as those 2 yet, but I think looking at his races, he's going to be another one that should appreciate this kind of level today.
Let's go to race number 2 this afternoon, a 5.5 furlong sprint. These are claimers 3-year-olds, 4 and up. Non-winners of 2 in life, 12-5 down to $10,000, and nice field of 10. And we've been saying this over the last week and a half. The fields here have just been gigantic. This is a great betting card this afternoon. And the second race kicks off our first of 2 pick 4s on the day. And we were making about, everybody in the country was making a lot that Safi Joseph Jr. was 0 for 27 going into Friday's card, both up at Saratoga here and wherever else he runs. But he came back with 2 wins yesterday.
2 wins early in the program. It was business from the start, and both the performances from those horses were nice. We both go to the 8 here, Burhanu, who I think is the rightfully top pick in here. Last time out at 6 furlongs, finally got that third lifetime win, did it pretty easy, and he just got to the front and he stayed there.
Yeah, you know, when I was handicapping this race, going back with that stat in my head, I said, I got to figure out a way maybe I can beat this horse today. I just kept going back to this horse. You're absolutely right. 8-5 in the morning line, turning back to 5.5. As Ashley mentioned, Drew Clear is the favorite. Defeated Simla going 3/4. Safi is, has J.C. Diaz Jr. going for 2 in a row. He's been riding that guy a lot, so I thought he was a logical one. You went with the number 2 in second, Nikita, I think it is, stepping up today to face winners. You know, had that protracted duel last time out and held on gamely to defeat those 20 maidens for Bonnet is En Fuego.
It was interesting his race 2 back at the 12-5 level, that maiden race where Personal Meadow won, came back to win next time out. I think this is a key race. I'll talk about it a little bit later when Banu's in one of the races because I do want to mention it. But last time out, he actually stepped up to the $20,000 maiden claiming level. A field of 8 in there. But I liked the trip that he got in that race. He wasn't as close to the pace. He seemed to settle nicely and made that late run. He was a price in there. Looking at how productive the race was, the third place finisher came back to win next time out. And I mentioned 2 starts back. The winner came back to face claiming lower level than this sort of race, but performed well.
Well, the number 9, Forest of Hope, goes to the Oscar Gonzalez barn after the claim, prompted the pace. We can finish third behind Berhanu last time out. So maybe he can reverse that previous outcome at this a little bit of a shorter distance. I mean, the race goes through the number 8 horse, and I think when you're putting your early pick 4 ticket together, early pick 5, I'm thinking that Berhanu, a lot of people are going to be thinking of singling that horse.
Yeah, and just because you keep on mentioning that stat, I couldn't single him in those early wagers just because the barn was on a cold streak. They seem to be getting back to where they kind of left off.
Well, the third race this afternoon, 5 furlongs on the turf, maiden special weight fillies. These are 2-year-olds. Full field of 12. Scratch the number 13 in here. And Ashley, I think, picked 9 of the 12 horses in this race. I'm just joking. On a really pick 5 ticket. I like Veil Prophet in here, is making her first start since dueling throughout and finishing second. Well, let's go back and show you her performance last. We're going to pick it up from the 8th pole home when Veil Prophet finishes second. And not only finishes second to a nice horse, Diabolical, who went up to Woodbine and won the My Dear Girl Stakes there for Mark Cassie. So Diabolical, pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned won the My Dear Stakes up there at Woodbines in her second career start. Just right off of this one up there. That race was not too long ago. And Diabolic's out of the Mark Cassie barn. We keep on talking about how these horses are really ready to go first time out. And Veiled Prophet only missed by a neck. So when you look at the horses that have raced, I mean, I think she's coming out of a huge performance.
Yeah, and Roger Lauren's got Chantal returning on this daughter of Uncaptured. But I want to hear about this number 7 horse. I don't think I have anywhere on my ticket, and that says Sneaky Cheeky.
I'm trying to be sneaky here. 12-1 morning line. This is a first-time starter out of the Jeff Engler barn. It was 12% at the meet. I know with first-time starters, maybe not the strongest number, but actually with 2-year-olds, they do quite well. Now, just looking at the pedigree, By Will Take Charge out of a Black Minnesluce mare, but the mare was actually a pretty good mare. She was grade 1 placed. She finished second in the Madison behind who? Groupie Doll, who's definitely no bum of a horse would be the best way to say it. And all of her wins were on synthetic. And kind of looking at the foals, it's interesting. 3 foals have all made it to the races. They were all trained by Peter Urton. So this is one that they sold at sale, and it's going to get a shot in the Jeff Engler barn.
Boy, you did a lot of work on that horse.
I really want to find a long shot.
That's it. I'm going to go and check this Sneaky Cheeky out for sure in there. I went with the number 3, Brush with the Irish Red, is the daughter of Caravaggio by Scat Daddy, debuting from Mark Cassie. You know, we've mentioned it ad nauseum that he is the leading 2-year-old trainer here, and he's got Emerciel Jaramillo, who's been sort of his go-to jock in the saddle today. And then you got the number 10, Creative Girl. I know you had some interest in this horse. Yeah,
I wanted to show a trainer stat here for Juan Avila, just kind of looking at this horse off the debut. Where do we see this horse kind of finishing next time out? So looking at the connections the last 3 years with Maiden's second time out on the surface switch from dirt to turf, 27% in terms of wins, 55% in the money. I love the ROI, $5.69. And Creative Girl was a strong debut, finished third, beaten by 3/4 of a length after being the pace setter. Tired in there. Nice to see that the runner-up, Battle Charge, came back to win next time out. And as I mentioned, the surface switch might be key.
Yeah, it might be key for those. I have a horse on my ticket, too. So there's Veil Prophet platted by that horse, that stakes winner last time out, to get the job done. But, you know, you're right going deep in there because these 2-year-olds, you don't know what's going on. 5 furlongs on the turf. When you're dealing dealing with 12 runners, it's good to have some coverage. Race 4 this afternoon is a 6-furlong sprint. These are maiden claimers 3 and up, $12,500. Oh, here's another 11-horse field that we had to handicap this afternoon. I'm going to start it off with the 5. I'm glad you used this one on your ticket, Geoscience, who's plunging today to the 12-5 level on the main track. First start since prompting the pace and fading as the favorite. That was that 35 sprint here, but it was back during December. Efren Loza Jr. has this gelding training sharply at Palm Meadows, and that's sort of what swayed me.
I don't know what to do with Geoscience. Just looking at the record, right? He's had some gaps in between his races. Debuted in November of 2018. Wasn't seen again until a year later. I will say the good thing that he has going for him now as a 5-year-old, just looking at his races, his best races have been on the dirt. He's finished second in both of them. That was 2 starts back, but you have to go back to March of 2020. He seems to be training well. The barn does actually really well off a 6-month-plus layoff. In this case, it's even longer than that. So I used him for second. I still used him in the early pick 5, but I couldn't use him on top.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely guesswork. I just have so much success. Efren Loza Jr. Such limited amount of horses, so I've always had some success with him, and probably tilted me that way. But I think maybe when the smoke clears, you either got to look at the one Dr. Roger or the horse you have some interest in, and that's number 8, Bono or Bonono or whatever.
Call him Bono, but I don't know if it's a U2 reference or not. Last time out, I thought it was his best race as of recent, and maybe not in a numbers standpoint, but in his finish. He finished second, beaten by 3 lengths behind Personal Meadow, who I talked about a little bit earlier. Nikita, who I like in one of the races, who's a bit of a price, finished third in that race and came back to win next time out, jumping up from that 12.5 to a $20,000 maiden claimer. And this horse beat that third-place finisher last time out. I mentioned Personal Meadow came back to win next time out. So I think that race on June 26th is pretty productive. The form, though, with him, it's consistent. So I hope that version of him shows up today.
Yeah, and it's one of these races, when you're dealing with 12-5 claimers once again, it's just such a wide open field. I did use the number 1, Dr. Roger, a little higher up than you did. His turning back to 3/4 of a mile today. After tracking the pace, finishing second, it was against Sindler, going 7 furlongs. Wansi Avila is going to have the apprentice, what's his name? Franklin Callis, 7-pound apprentice. So getting a break in the weights, the horse has got tactical speed, got the inside post. I think the kid's going to go. And
the cutback. I mean, the last 2 races have been 7/8, kind of tired, and that's kind of the trend for him, but I still think getting back to 6 furlongs, you look at his races, 3-4 starts back at the 6 furlong distance, both strong efforts.
And then the number 10, Bronx, is a horse that you might want to put on your ticket from Gilberto Zerpa, training for Arundel.
It's an Arundel homebred, so it's not surprising to see by Brethren. But the works I thought were sharp in this race. We've talked about horses that have kind of had their fair share of chances or coming off those layoffs. He's the unknown in here, but I thought the works were sharp. And we mention this every time Gilberto Zerpa has a firster. He has him ready to roll.
Yeah, and Arundel's great. The Cohens, they just have such great names with their horses. Bronx. Simple as that. So I like that. Yeah, good. So race number 5 this afternoon is one of our stakes races. It's 5 furlongs on the turf, 3-year-olds and up, $60,000. It is the North Miami Beach, and you went with the number 2 horse in here, Tiger Blood. So what we'll do is go back and show you that Warrior's Pride was in that race too, along with Tiger Blood. And here you see Warrior's Pride on top, and you see Tiger Blood is the number 8 horse in here. And it looks like Warrior's Pride is going to have an easier time than this horse ends up having.
Yeah, Warrior's Pride tried to steal it on the front end, ultimately did by a very slim neck, but you can see Tiger Blood kind of usually sits mid-pack early on and is just grinding away here, trying to catch up. You can just see, still grinding away. The 5 still looks like he might be home clear, and then there's a photo at the end. So it was a really good performance for Tiger Blood. You almost feel bad for the 8-year-old. He's so accomplished in his career. He's a 19 for 56. 8 of his wins have come here over the turf course. So I just thought last time out he's basically a winner in my book, now making that 3rd start off the layoff.
Yeah, and when you see 5 furlongs on the turf, and then you see Steve Cliceris' name next to it, you got to give this horse a second look.
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the stats for the barn there, we have one to show here when I was looking in the formulator. Turf sprints at Gulfstream the last 3 years, 20%. You can see this is his forte, 28 for 142. A big sample size here, 51% in the money with a $2.74 ROI. And Edgar Zayas, again, in the saddle today.
I went with the number 4 horse in here, Jack and Noah, the French bred, listed as a gelding, the 4-year-old. He returns looking to recapture that 2020 form when he won the $85,000 Mahoney up at Saratoga. He won the 6 furlong, $80,000 Circat on the Belmont Turf. But Mark Cassie has this gelding firing bullets up on his farm. Now, maybe he clocks him up there, but it certainly looks like this horse is, and showed a ton of ability sprinting on the grass before going to the sidelines.
Ability and class as well. He's a 4-time winner, as you mentioned, from 8 starts. He's quick. That's his game. I mean, if you look at his last race, I know it was back in August of 2020 at Saratoga. From the gate, he opened 6 or 7 lengths on the field and still prevailed in the end in the Mahoney. If he gets to the front, it could be tough. I think Warrior's Pride is not as quick as him. We might see him try to put the pressure on, and I'll be hoping for that with Tiger Blood. But I think if Jack and Noah can kind of clear the field, he will be tough here.
And you make a great point with Warrior's Pride. They tried to steal it last time out. It almost worked. I don't know if he's as good as some of the horses in this race, but you can't knock him. He won last time out. So, yeah, and that is the North Miami Beach. With that, we'll take a short break. When we come back, I'll have my Rainbow Six ticket. Rolling right along on Gulfstream today, a little afternoon, 11-race card, a very nice 11-race card. If you like big fields, you've come to the right place this afternoon. We have a great action. We got turf racing, we got good turf, and we got $200,000 jackpot guarantee in the Rainbow Six. So let's check my $43.20 ticket. And as usual, I go 3 deep in the first leg. I hate to get beat. Acting Lucky, Lyrical, and Velvet Isle. I think those might be the logical 3 in there. I like Eskimo's Boss this afternoon. I lost Kahiko out of the scratch, so I bumped up to Smart Spending. But I like Eskimo's Boss in that spot today. 3 deep in race number 8. I think it's wide open, those 2-year-olds. Here's where, if I had deeper pockets, I would just go so deep in this race. That's a hard one. And in race number 9, just 2 deep in there with Freedom Matters and the Virginian. And what are you doing? I'm going to ask him when we get to race number 10 if you use Kamar Taj on your ticket. Shady Summer was certainly compromised last time out at the start. 3 deep in race number 11. Getting back to race number 6 today, and if you're just joining us here in the second half of the show, the main track is fast, the turf course is good, but it is a sunny day out, so I'm thinking that the turf course in just a little while will be upgraded to firm, I would guess at least.
I think it could dry out. I mean, it sounds crazy. I'm a couple miles away from the track. Maybe we got more rain, maybe we got less. We'll see here, but it's actually been pretty good here this week in terms of rain, so I do think it'll dry out.
Well, you started this horse race off. Yeah, easy for me to say, with the 2 Lyrical, who's cutting back slightly after rallying along the inside. He just was a neck shy of notching this condition at 6 furlongs.
I thought the race was kind of sneaky good last time out. Yes, he missed by a little bit, but it was a very different strategy for him. In his prior races, he was always forwardly placed. I should say she was always forwardly placed and tired, and now they had her close from off the pace. The pace was not nearly as quick as what she's run in some of her races, and she was really strong in there. She was beaten by one of our favorites in the office, Takes 2 to Wiggle, who's a bit of an upset, but it was a huge performance from her, and for me, I just think another crack at it. She looks tough.
Yeah, MSC El Jaramillo in the saddle. We flip-flopped the exacta here, the number 5 Acting Lucky, who's stepping up to the next logical level today after responding to the addition of Lasix with that set-the-pace score against those 12-5 maidens, going 5.5 furlongs. I know you have a stat on Amador Sanchez.
Yeah, Acting Lucky, too, I believe, was entered yesterday and scratched out of race, just to mention. So this is where they wanted to go. Just looking at maiden winners last time out the past 3 years in terms of wins, 4 for 24, 17%. 50% in the money. I don't know if I've ever shown an ROI this big yet. $7.18. So usually price Acting Lucky. You'd be lucky to get anywhere near that. This is going to be a favorite in here. Her last race was pretty nice. It was almost flawless in some regard off that long layoff. My question with Acting Lucky, how's she going to do facing winners for the first time?
Yeah, maybe he had like a $90 winner one day or something like that to get that 7-18. I didn't know what to do with the number 9 horse, and you have 4th, I have 3rd. Velvet Isle is a late striding type who could end up sitting in the garden spot behind the pace. It's Saffie Joseph Jr., it's Edgar Zayas, but the mare is 1 for 15.
She's 1 for 15. She had that really long layoff of closer to a year and a half or a year and 4 months. And she had a nice effort 2 starts back where the winner, Fiery Princess, came back to notch her 3rd lifetime win in her following start. But you look at her most recent, it was good. She at least made up some ground, but Lyrical beat her. 3 starts back, Queen of Barrio beat her. She's going to need a lot more than she's shown.
And Happy Interest is the number 10 horse in here with Leonel Reyes. So we basically got the same super, just got to box it around.
Which might be better, because I think when we're stone cold in order, it doesn't fare too well for us.
We got to check that out. Let's go to race number 7 this afternoon. It's a mile on the turf allowance, optional claimer, Phillies Mastery and up with the optional tag of $25,000. We have 1 scratch so far, the 13. Pete Aiella will update you with all the scratches and changes you need in just a little while. I was in the wrong race, so let's see if there is a scratch. No, it's the number 9 in race number 7. You got to flip the page. This is where our final pick 5 of the day starts, and as I mentioned, a mile on the turf. I like the 6 in here. Well, you got it on the ticket, too. It's not that I was a little surprised that this horse was the morning line favorite. I thought this horse would be 2nd or 3rd choice. When I just looked at the race, first blush, I just thought this one would be a bigger price. And I'm talking about Eskimo's Borsal getting her first serious class check today. She's a lightly raced 4-year-old. She faces some seasoned runners in this spot after posting those back-to-back victories versus state-bred competition. I just thought you should get a little better price against this level of competition.
Yeah, you mentioned she's going to be tested today for her class 7-2. I agree. I think it is a little short. I will say she has improved significantly in each start, especially last time out. From a number standpoint in her performance, she was not really looked by bettors in there. She went favored 2 starts ago, one off at 7-1, but these are way deeper waters, and some of these other horses have already faced tough competition.
Yeah, and I think the one when you're handicapping the race might be the one that you have on top, and a good price in this too. The number 3, Smart Spending, who's making her first start since she closed impressively to defeat those starter optional claimers.
Looking at the horses that she's faced, I think she's faced some of the better ones kind of at these levels. Last time out, she beat Sunshine City, who won here, I believe, last weekend in a good performance, and they've kind of battled it out. She had a poor effort 2 starts back, but other than that, her races since late February, she's been there every step of the way. The big thing for her, she would love some pace to run at. She's going to close from off the pace. Last time out, she was able to get the job done by a lot. So for me, the connections too. We keep on talking about Victor Barboza Jr. just winning everything.
Isn't it on contract?
Yeah, we get royalties for that. But the barn was on a tear last weekend, and so far they're 22% at the meet.
Yeah, and I think he's 29% winning consecutive, some number like that. I loved Kahiko in here for a price, and the horse was scratched today. And I bumped up the 1 Tammany, who departs from the rail after she sort of flaunted her versatility when she followed her Kumferheim maiden victory. Now it's against 16 maidens, but then she comes back and she goes wire to wire to defeat 25 starter allowance runners going 8.5 furlongs. Emmett Jolly, limited amount of starters. He's 2 for 7 at the meeting, getting Victor LeBron in the saddle today. So maybe a horse like this, I don't know where this horse is going to be sitting in the race.
Yeah, I don't know either, because she's got the inside draw today. Looking at her last race at a mile and a 16th, you mentioned it. They just said, let's go to the front in that starter allowance, and it worked out beautifully for them. Victor guided her on that occasion. I thought she was sneaky. I used her a little further down, but I thought about boosting her up. I just thought, again, some of the others in here, especially my top pick, she's faced tougher.
And what about the number 7, All Quality?
All Quality is one out of the Mark Casse barn. Previously was trained by Peter Miller out in California, and the performances, some of them a little bit lackluster, constantly getting those minor shares, a couple 4th place finishes and 2nd place finishes. Now, she's had time off. She went up to the Casse Training Center near Ocala. Her works aren't the sharpest, but I think looking at the races that she's coming out of, she's coming over here. She's performed okay here at Gulfstream Park. I know she didn't hit the board, but she had some nice efforts, so maybe it'll be just a change of scenery for her.
Well, let's go to race 8, 7 furlongs, maiden special weight, 2-year-olds are going to scratch the inside horse, the number 1. This is the race that, to me, was the head scratcher on the card. Going to be interesting to see how you handle the Rainbow Six, the late pick 5, excuse me.
Late pick 4. We got to get that right.
5, 4, 6.
Well, we don't really agree here at all, Ron. When I saw your Rainbow Six, I knew we were in trouble here. I used 3 horses in here, the number 3, Cool Star, as well as the number 12, Chancellor Bay, and my long shot of the day, the 11, Ride On By. Race 9, it's a mile turf event. I used 2 horses in here. I think the 12, you know I'm a big fan of Tune In. Had to use Tune In again, getting back onto the turf. But the horse on the rail, the number 1, the Virginian, I thought this horse was really good last time out, stretching out from 5 furlongs to today's mile distance. Race 10, the $75,000 Azalea. I went too deep in here. I do use Kamar Taj, who I know you use on top. I didn't use Shady Summer, though. I went to the number 6, Competitive Speed, who had a pretty nice effort here on July 10th in that overnight handicap. And then to wrap things up, I feel like I threw a dart here. I used 4 horses. The 4, 9, and the 10 I thought were logicals, but I thought the Ohio-bred first-time starter, the number 6, Starry Jalen, interesting pedigree here, so I had to use that one as well for my $24 ticket.
All right, let me get this straight now. This is the late pick 4. I've called it every bet we had this afternoon, but it is the late pick 4. And as I mentioned, I was honest when I had said about my Rainbow Six. This is the one that I couldn't figure out, and I went it one way, you went a total different way, and I'm loving that. I went with the number 5, Fast and Seti, who's the son of Fast Anna, and if you were around when Fast Anna run, Fast Anna was fast. I mean, that was one fast horse. Debuting for Javier Gonzalez, back-to-back bullet workouts showing in preparation for its career debut. Hector Barrios, I just thought this was an intriguing possibility in the race. And Hector Barrios does some of his best work when he's on the lead. I'm guessing this horse might be on the engine.
Yeah, the works might suggest they're just going to go from the get-go. Kind of looking at the pedigree a little bit, the mare didn't race here in North America, but I should say in the U.S., but was 6 for 20 in her career. The works are really speedy. I just laid off of this one a little bit, was going to take a wait-and-see approach. I know first-time starters isn't the best angle for the barn, but actually 2-year-olds, they're 18%.
Yeah, so we'll see how this runs. You did go with the number 3 horse on top of your ticket, and that's I didn't use this horse further down, like you said. Wasn't sold on it.
Wasn't sold on this one, was heavily favored last time out on the debut, going 5.5 furlongs. Desert Ruler, though, I would say, was a pretty nice winner who had a nice pedigree in there. Apparently has been gelded since that effort. And I mentioned the pedigree before. The mare was a stakes winner. We talked about another Saffy horse earlier in the day that's a half-sibling. Braun, who's the half-sibling here. The other thing we've always talked about, Saffy with first-time starters, not his best angle. But looking at 2-year-old maidens, second-time starters, he's 23% in terms of wins the last 5 years and 49% in the money. So obviously there's a huge step up and an improvement here in career start number 2.
And it is Saffy. He's got like 55 victories, at the meet. So certainly. What about the number 4, Summer 5, is the son of Shackelford, debuting for Gustavo Delgado. He's got some solid numbers with 2-year-olds. He's got a 20% win average with his first-time starters. Hall of Famer Edgar Prado's going to hop aboard. I just was playing the percentages here. I like Gustavo Delgado when he starts these 2-year-olds.
Yeah, and I believe Gustavo Delgado trains this one's half-sibling by the name of Summer Kid, who has 2 wins out of 5 starts. Both the wins have been here at Gulfstream Park. The mare out of a Summerbird, the mare, looking at her pedigree, was 3rd in the Gulfstream Park Oaks a couple of years back. So she had some talent, didn't necessarily win a bunch, but you've mentioned the 2-year-olds is a strong number for the barn and first-time starters. I thought this one was sneaky, but like I said, I could have used probably 6 or 7.
Yeah, well, we do agree on the number 12 in here, Chancellor Bay, who's stretching out to the 7 after the promising 5.5 furlong debut, in which he certainly took the overland route that day. He finished that close-up 4th for Dan Peter. Christian Torres handling, it's a tough outside post. It's going to be post 11 today.
It is a really tough draw. This horse was kind of not looked at all in that debut, but was only beaten by a length and a quarter. Hopefully she can improve second time out, but now, I should say he's going to have a big disadvantage with the draw.
Well, that is the kickoff of the late pick 4. Race number 9 this afternoon is a mile turf allowance optional claimer for 3-year-olds and up. The optional claiming tag is $25,000. Lost my long shot here to a horse I really had a lot of interest in. That's the 2-7 Channels. A couple other scratches in the race, but you know, I lost how I figured this race out. So I bumped up the number 3, Freedom Matters, who's going to the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn after the claim. Used its tactical speed last time out to defeat those 16,000 state-bred optional claimers going a mile. What I liked about this gelding, 12 for 16 in the money on the local turf course.
Simply loves it here at Gulfstream Park. You mentioned now joining the barn of Saffie Joseph Jr., who first off the claim, 25%, but he's been a really hot commodity. I mean, look at his races. He's almost been claimed every single start this year for the most part. He's hit the board in all of his outings. His numbers, they're just strong to me. I know 2 starts back he finished 3rd, but he only missed by half a length. I really like that effort. Robin Take Charge won that race, came back to win. Next time out is in this spot again today.
Well, I know you already mentioned that you like the 12-horse tune-in here, so tune us in.
I have loved Tune In since about that April 3rd win at 10-1. Got a really good trip. This horse was coming off some turf races earlier in the year in January. They were good performances. They were actually back-to-back wins. One at Tampa, one here at Gulfstream Park. Against starter allowance competition, was able to sit off the pace and make a late move to get up by 3/4 of a length. Since then, though, he's 2 for 3, and interestingly enough, in June, after winning here in May, they shipped him up to Churchill Downs. They put him in a tough little race there. He finished 3rd, beaten by half a length, the top 2. They dead heated, so he was right there every step of the way. He's going to get back on the turf, and I think he's just as good on the dirt as he is on the turf.
Well, I am in total agreement with the number 1 horse with you, the Virginian, who's going to depart from the rail. Duel throughout, finished 2nd, was 24-1 at this level and distance last time out. Steve Clisaris, as we mentioned, this course ran very well last time out, and you get an Embassy El Jaramillo handling the inside draw today. I think with 6 or 8-1 on the morning, 8-1 on the morning line, I think this horse is a major player.
I think the big question for him last time out was he was coming out of those 5 furlong races where he exhibited a heck of a lot of early foot. I mean, 20-4, 43 to the half in that 5 furlong race on April 30th. So when you stretch him out to the mile, you know he has early foot, but what's going to happen? That's a pretty significant stretch out in distance, and he was right towards the front throughout. He just missed by 2 lengths in the end. He had to kind of fight off Coffee Bean, but I thought it was a huge effort, and now I think his 2nd time at the distance, he can maybe improve.
Yeah, you got Coffee Bean on your ticket there, so I think that horse has a shot. I did go with the number 5, Louder Than Bombs in 3rd, who figures against this level of competition. Ran into that classy stakes face Chuck Willis 2 and 3 starts back. And then that was 2nd. That was that salty group of 35 condition claimers last time out. So I thought maybe this horse can grab a share. You know, I can understand using Coffee Bean too.
Yeah, these two I think are kind of going to be around the same price. You mentioned Louder Than Bombs last time out going to the 35. The light bulb went back on. Look at the races he's faced in, though. A ton of grade 3s, stakes races. And I know his form maybe is not as good as it was in 2019, early 2020, but I think he's really getting into his best form that we've seen in a while. Coffee Bean, used Coffee Bean last time out. It didn't fare too well at the 5 furlong distance, so I hope stretching back out is going to help Coffee Bean. 2 for 5 here at the mile.
Well, let's go to race number 10. And now this is 7 furlongs, fillies, 3-year-olds. It's the $75,000, the Azalea. And on top, we both have Kamar Taj. But I think the last race with Shady Summer, I have to go back and show you the start of this race. And I think it changed the whole complexion of that last race where all these horses were knocking heads with each other. Just, you know, breaks in the air. And just basically Shady Summer's game is to be way up there. And I just showed this. I thought this horse was very brave after that bad start to come up. Gonna have weaken the stretch, but actually gets its nose in front here through the stretch. That's why I wanted to show it after that, you know, hopping in the air at the start. Also had its head turned. And, you know, fades here, but you could understand why. So I thought it changed the complexion of the race, and then competitive speed, I thought, you know, reap the spoils of that performance.
It did, and you mentioned Shady Summer. Just to make a move, I can remember watching this on the apron saying, really? Like, how did that horse get to the front there at all? I know she tired late, but it was a really troubled trip from Shady Summer. The 6 competitive speed you mentioned, she just got the perfect setup in there. But I will say, she really loves it here, too, at Gulfstream Park.
Well, the number 2 horse in here, Kamar Taj, is making the big jump up into stakes competition after following her state-bred debut victory with a solid state-bred allowance score going 6.5 furlongs. Now, that was a sloppy track that day. I'm a big fan, and I know you are, of Terry Pompey. Miguel Vasquez named on this Daughter of Violence. I just think she's going great guns, trying to get a little bit of a price in there with the 2 horse over, probably when the smoke clears, the favorite's going to be Shady Summer.
Just looking at Kamar Taj, the 2 races, the runner-ups, they've come back to, win next time out in pretty big ways as well. But she's done nothing wrong, and I love the way that she's won. She looks like there's still more in the tank. You mentioned last time out on the slop. She's going to get a new rider today, though. Miguel Vasquez climbing aboard. Amisael Jaramillo goes to Shady Summer.
Yeah. Shady Summer. I didn't know what to do with competitive speed. As you can see by my selection, I wasn't enamored that much with the victory last time out. I thought the horse got all of the right breaks in that race. So I got a little further down on the ticket.
I just think her last 2 races since coming back to Florida, she kind of demands some respect in here. She's finished second. We mentioned she did win that race that we showed the replay of. But before that, she was in some tough races, going a mile and a 16th here, where she finished third in both the Devona Dale and the Gulfstream Park Oaks graded stakes events. Then they tried her in the Kentucky Oaks. She didn't fare too well. She was the last place finisher, but I think coming back here, she's been cutting back a little bit in distance. Both good efforts.
Let's go to the race number 11 this afternoon. It's a 5-furlong turf event. These are maiden claiming fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, $16,000. Another big field to deal with in the nightcap. And I thought the number 5, I'll start with Julie Bird, the Irish Red, may have finally found the spot where she can make amends after breaking from that outside post 10, tracking the pace and finishing 4th. As the favorite at this level and distance, maybe today is the day. Tough race to figure out. I know you went 4 deep in your late pick 5, and I can understand why.
Yeah, Julie Bird, she also, again, this is another race where you can spread in here. Julie Bird, you mentioned last time out, that post didn't help her. 2 starts back, she was on the dirt. So this is going to be her really first attempt at a good post position at the maiden 16 level. I go to the number 9, Sweet Penelope, who I know you also use this horse just 1 step below me. Thought the effort last time out, I know it was on the dirt, at least got her a little bit of confidence. She finished second behind Acting Lucky. So maybe that's the key today, to see how Acting Lucky performs. Now the turf efforts, they've been, I would say, the 1-3 back, even though the horse was 7th, only beaten by 3 1/4. That was going 5 furlongs, but that was against the $25,000 level.
Yeah, when you look at the past performances race, you really can't zero in and say, oh, that horse is a 5-furlong turf sprinter. So if your horse like the number 9 Sweet Penelope, who showed speed even though it was going on the main track, could be the key angle in this wide open affair. I went with Starry Jalen, is a daughter of Cantharos, who couldn't have scripted an easier spot to start her career. I just think it's a wide open affair. A trainer, Rohan Crichton, I believe he won the nightcap yesterday, was it? Or the 9th race yesterday. Ed's Lasix for this assignment, so maybe that's get this horse on top. You did go with the number 10 in here, Bell's Kingdom.
And before we skip off of Starry Jalen, I want to say there's an Ohio bred they purchased for $62,000 back in 2019. The mare has had no foals to race, only 2 foals, I believe, but boy, was she quick. She won a couple stakes races early on in her career, and her name of the game for her was speed. So it'll be interesting to see what this filly does. I hope we can get 8-1, as I mentioned. I spread in here, I don't know. And then, you mentioned about the number 10, Bell's Kingdom, is a horse I used. Going to get blinkers on. Last time out, faced those state-bred level, going a mile on the turf for $25,000. Finished 4th. It was kind of a mid-pack performance, but I think when you go back 2-3 races, she's a big contender here.
Yeah, I mean, a wide open affair and logical to use a bunch of horses. If you can get that single, maybe in a race where, like, the stake race is, you single a horse like Shady Summer or whoever you like, you can go deeper in this last race. And that's saying Shady Summer is the 1-2 single in that race, even though it's the speed of the speed. So we'll see how that plays out. But before we get done, we're going to switch it to our lightning round. And we have a bunch of congratulations on hand today. 2 trainers that spend a lot of time here. We've been talking about Mark Cassie, all meet, and, of course, Todd Pletcher. Congratulations to both those trainers for their induction into the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame.
I just saw the comments on Twitter from people that attended the ceremony yesterday that both had great speeches when they accepted their awards. You mentioned Mark's been on a tear here. Both of them really prevalent during the championship meet, so I'm sure we'll be seeing them both in the standings once that meet starts in a couple months.
Oh, yeah. I think Todd is 17-time leading trainer here. I think that's
17 or it's 18. I can't
maybe
remember.
Maybe it's 18 now. It might have got the other one last year. He definitely was the leading trainer here. And Mark was, I'm going to be teasing him when I see him. He couldn't, he was little tears in there, even though it was very nice. I'm just joking, of course, with that. Well, you're talking about all their big guns up there at Saratoga. We got one of our mainstays right here, Antonio Sano, who happened to win the first race at Saratoga yesterday with a first-time starter. So congratulations. Just take a look at that stretch run. And you see it was a good, big performance. And our old buddy Andy Serling put this one right on top, I believe, at 11-1.
Really good price. We know that Antonio Sano likes that little vacation up to Saratoga and always looks forward to racing horses there, so it's really nice to see him get that win.
And, you know, yeah, it was really nice. So he gets up and just holds on to get that win. And Antonio, so at least he got his plane fare paid for it. So that's very good. No, congratulations to all those connections. And, boy, they got a great race up there today. The Whitney, boy, it's a compact field of 5, but it features a Swiss skydiver, of course, trying to beat the boys this afternoon in the Grade 1 Whitney. And, you know, we showed this horse winning the Preakness numerous times. So I wanted to show something else. So actually going to go to our sister track, Santa Anita, when she wins the Grade 1 Beholder Mile. I thought it was a great performance, and this sort of signaled this horse was back.
And you can just see how happy she looks. Her ears are pricked. They're kind of moving back and forward. It looked like a really easy win for her. And I know, obviously, there was a couple situations where they wanted to get into a race, but there was a lot going on this summer up at Saratoga. So this is where they've ended her up. You mentioned it's compact field of 5, but a lot of ties to some big horses that we've seen here. You mentioned Swiss Skydiver. Nixco might have won a little bit of a race here not too long ago.
Yeah, was it the $7 million or whatever it is, Pegasus World Cup? So it's going to be a great race, and congratulations to all the connections. And Ashley forced me to do this one because you'll see why in just a second. She likes both things that are up here, tacos and tequila. And we got this. This is a very popular thing here at the track. It is jammed when they have it. They'll be back on August 28th, and that's Travers Day, and it's also the second leg of the Sire Stakes series.
I mean, what can you go wrong? Tacos, tequila, and thoroughbreds. Racing. I mean, it's my favorite 3 things.
It sounds, well, I'm right there with you. I'm not just saying it's you. So always a lot of fun, and all kidding aside, and they have it upstairs on the 3rd floor, I believe, and it is jam-packed every time. And I'm going to sneak up there in between races, see if I can get a taco I can't drink while I'm on the air.
I might have to take the last race off.
Well, good luck, everybody. We'll be back here throughout the afternoon. Really nice 11-race card.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path.